The day I found out I was going to be on this stage, I came home bigger than my smile. My mama said, "Aren't you scared out of your brain? This stage is everything I care about and everything I need to prove, so yes," I tell her, "I'm terrified. That words will never hold how much this matters to me." I tell her about bringing the noise for MLK last year, about screaming and snapping, being that kind of inspired that melts you into incoherent energy. I tell her it felt like the world changing, like we were molding it with our voices, with language landscapes, 3D metaphors, but mostly with honesty. These poets spoke every personal detail in an attempt to bond us through understanding. I tell her, "I need to write powerful like that." She says, "I don't know why you feel like you don't have the words, Tall. When we talk, it's like poetry." My mama is a psychiatrist, raised me to talk about my feelings, says there's no such thing as a cure. But when we admit our pain, when we communicate, we heal. This is our way of living. It is poetry. Sonia said there was something missing from her poem until reading it for us made her fall knees to floorboards crying. I told him to leave, she says. He didn't leave. And sitting cross-legged next to her, not really knowing what to offer but tissues and hands, I was smiling because it felt like something breaking. In Sonia and between us, trust replaced barriers. This was a connection on the content of our character, the kind Martin Luther King dreamed about. It was poetry. Sam and I stayed up till 2 a.m. by a river talking, fought off frozen breath with tangled elbows and knees, spoke about our strengths in between discussions of parallel universes and cereal. The way our words connected us was poetry. And when he kissed me and ran away, my mama transformed the hurt into understanding. She'd say, "Look, Tall, this is human nature. People have this need and fear of connection, so pain became a lesson, became bigger than me." That was poetry. Discuss our disagreements, how he won't let me play my music in his car, how I eat with my fingers and roll my eyes, while the tear staccatoed courage means our relationship is worth talking about the hard things. I said, "As long as I just sit here and listen to you, you're happy." He said, "I feel the same way," and that was poetry. Dr. King said I decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. It's like that with my dad and I. We choose to love each other even though it is not easy. We do it because it matters. There's a lot he can teach me, and the fact that we keep struggling is poetry. Ajit quoted a line from my poem on Facebook. She heard my words and gave them back not only to me, but the fact that they meant something to her. That was the poetry. When my mama tucked me into bed last night, she said, "The thing about being a psychiatrist is sometimes I'll listen to people talk and hardly say anything, but it'll be this great conversation because I can hear the poetry in their words." She said, "To heal, you need the person speaking and the person listening. We need the conversation, need each other. That is poetry." Dr. King spoke for needing each other, communicating to build community in order to make change. In his last speech, he said, "I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." He spoke for not accepting endings. We are not at the promised land yet, but we are getting there together. Tonight, we are getting there. We are dedicating ourselves to honesty in an attempt to connect on the content of true character, because when we do, we can change things. When our words make us understand why this is not over, why this is still important, then we keep the movement living. So me, on this stage, this is not an ending, it is not easy. I am struggling with what Dr. King's words mean for me. I am white, privileged. I don't know anyone else's experience but mine, so when it comes to talking about change, I don't always share the vocabulary. But that is why it is important that I be here, not just to speak, but to listen, to hear the poetry. Because if we want to make change, we need to understand why it matters. It matters because Sonia cried, because Sam and I connected, because my dad and I are struggling, because Ajit heard me. I don't know how we'll get to true connection, to the promised land, but I offer you a love poem to the struggle. To every past bedtime conversation with my mama, to the hours and pages and pens written out of ink, all reaching for something not yet in my palms. Struggling to translate that incoherent energy that is the power of what we do here, struggling for the words that will build change. This is poetry. This is a beginning.